Smart enough to win. That's how the story starts. Learning is the edge that sets your work apart. When the stakes get high and the pressure never stops, smart learning in your pocket puts your business at the top.
Welcome to the Learning Advantage, from Insight to Impact, where we're going to show how smart learning fuels real business results. I'm Deb Laurel, and I'm your host. And I welcome you today. We're going to have a wonderful conversation. A little bit about Laurel and Associates. For 40 years, we have worked alongside national and international managers to help them successfully manage employees and create and maintain a positive and supportive work environment where they want to stay and do their best. We focus on making lackluster leaders legendary. The purpose of the Learning Advantage, from Insight to Impact, is to discuss how smart learning fuels real business results. In each episode, we strive to deliver actionable strategies, evidence-based design tips, and real-world case studies that show how learning strengthens organizational health, advances sustainability, and drives profitability. And for that reason, I'm delighted to introduce our guest for today, Dr. Carrie Graham.
Hello.
Hello. With 25 years, more than 25 years in training and development and a doctorate in adult workplace learning, Carrie has specialized in helping small to mid-sized service-based businesses build scalable operational systems and high-performing teams. Her research proves that strategic learning frameworks directly drive business growth and client retention. After observing organizations struggle with inconsistent processes and team performance, Carrie developed the ERA training method for your organization.
But what they require is an environment where people are encouraged to learn together and continuously learn. And so when the premise that I take is that when an organization moves from saying that we support the idea that we support our employees, but rather create systems to support employee learning, we then have impact. And that's the work that I absolutely love doing.
What kind of systems are you referring to?
Yeah, so I'm speaking specifically to how you train your employees. That is, in fact, a system. Having a new employee sign on the dotted line that they agree to work with you, and then have them shadow someone, or, oh, so-and-so will show you how to do your job in 1 hour or 1 day. That's not a reliable system for employee training. What that is, it's an opportunity for them to observe, your work environment, but the system of how do we get someone in the door and then skill them in a way that they can jump right in and be productive contributors to our organization. And for some, it may even be one of the things that I've seen quite a bit is an organization will hire a highly experienced individual or another leader. And the expectation is that, well, this individual led a team at organization A, and now they're with us at organization X. They'll be fine. They'll know how to do it. They will. However, When you don't train them on the context of your X organization, you fail to support their learning. And that's a critical piece that is often overlooked.
It's often overlooked, not understanding the organizational culture, the policies, the procedures, the
Yes.
history makes
Yeah.
it so difficult.
It does. It does. And ultimately, when an organization fails to train their leadership in applying their transferable skills and transferable knowledge, when they fail to do that effectively, you ultimately are not focused on retaining that individual and those individuals in which they lead.
Can you share a specific example where a learning initiative moved from insight to real impact and how you measured that impact?
Yeah. One of the stories that, and I'll share it as a narrative, as a story. I had a client who the division of her organization was being acquired by another company in oncology. She reached out to me because it's in healthcare. So she said, Carrie, my team are highly experienced healthcare professionals. But when they have been tasked with giving presentations to the business side, the side that was acquiring them, they didn't know how to navigate that space. And so ultimately they were unable to, or they struggled to advocate for their patient base. And so one of the things that I did was help with training those healthcare professionals, providing them skills in how to present, something as simple as that, how best to present in a way that will connect the business entity within an organization. And there was a team of 4, and I would say that their initial, when they came to me, their initial rate of return on those conversations was fairly low, like 20% out of 10, let's say 10 conversations, only 2 of them went well based on their reporting. And after the training, which took some time, and it was we used all of the things, right? Psychological safety, empathetic communication, emotional intelligence, all of the things to help strengthen their skill set. And when they reached back out to me after 4 months after our training, the return was in fact at 90%. That
Oh, that's
their
wonderful.
level, yeah, that the team's level of confidence, every meeting that they had to present went well. And more importantly, they were confident in their ability to articulate, whatever the information was. And so I firmly believe that that's one of those instances where the idea was there on the team that was being acquired. Their leader knew that something needed to happen. The team needed to be skilled in some capacity, but she didn't know what that capacity was. She was just thinking presentation skills. And on the surface, that's what it was. But when we look deeper, it was far more than that.
One of the things that has always been important to me, and I think that's why we are participatory trainers and facilitators, is that we need to build people's confidence in their own competence. Because it's one
Correct.
thing to have those skills, it's another thing to feel comfortable using them and using them well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And jump ahead here in that that's the part of the ERA framework that I use. The E is engagement, and it's engaging the learner in a way that, well, first of all, it's engaging the individual as a learner, not just a checkbox, but as a learner, and then engaging them in a way that's meaningful to them. And that's the critical part. It's what matters, what stories matter to these learners in this moment, what's going to keep them motivated to continue learning. And then there's the retention, the R, so it's learning comprehension and information retention piece. So how we build the information or the learning content. And then the A is the application. And that is, it gets exactly to what you're saying, Deborah, we've engaged them and they're motivated to keep learning and they learn the information and they know it, but do they have the skill? So have they practiced it? And do they have the confidence to apply it appropriately? Now, I'm going to tell on myself really quickly. I often say that I love the History Channel and watching how to build bridges and suspension bridges and big things. I am always highly engaged, bag of popcorn. I could watch it for days. And I understand their process. But what you do not want is for Carrie Graham to build you a bridge, right? And it's because, and I don't want to build anyone a bridge, it's because of that confidence piece and that skill development piece. It's not enough to simply say, oh, we've engaged them, we've entertained them to keep them present. And it's also not enough to say, well, we did all the things so that they know the information. You also have to build and support the development of their confidence and competence, as you mentioned.
One example I always give to people, to learners, is, you need brain surgery. Is it okay if that surgeon knows everything because they read a book?
Right.
They've never done it before. You want them working on your head. And the answer is, of course not.
Of course not. Right. Of course not. Of course not. So there is, in fact, a lot to be said when we think about training. It's that application is really, I have found a pretty relevant piece that people often miss. It's not enough to simply in a classroom or in a virtual 60-minute workshop to say, well, talk to your neighbor and practice this. People need to practice the skills in context with some level of pressure. So things aren't going well and they've got to make some critical decisions in the moment as well.
Real life.
Yeah.
Real life. What do you see as the biggest barrier preventing organizations from fully embracing lifelong learning, and what do you think we can do to overcome it?
Yeah, I think some people, this comment might rub some people rough, but I'm okay with that. It starts at the leadership and what is the focus of the individuals in leadership? Are they focused on the bottom line and by any means necessary, and that is the only focus? Or are they open to recognizing it is the human beings that make this organization grow and move it forward? And once leadership truly understands that value and that it is a part of their internal belief system, I assure you that it is those individuals that will then look at, the annual budget and say, well, we're not going to cut the training and development or the learning and development budget because we need it over in production. They're going to say, we've given this money for this purpose, and this purpose is important, and it is in fact a priority. And when you do that, employees recognize that, wow, they're investing in me, and they're more committed. And so that idea of, well, we don't want to train them and skill them because they'll leave and go to our competitor. I say shift the way you think about it. Wouldn't you want people to leave your organization but talk about how wonderful your organization is as a place of employment? That's what you want. Um, and so I say it all arrows point to leadership. All arrows.
It's always surprised me when people say, well, if we train them, they're going to leave. So you want them to stay unengaged and untrained, and that's going to
Yes.
be able to move your organization forward, do you think? Clearly, not, but people don't
Right.
see the connection between a skilled workforce and the sustainability of an organization.
Correct. Correct. And oftentimes, and I have in the last 2 years, I've spent some time with individuals in economic development, and so looking at different regions and how what businesses are saying. And at the table, the conversation remains, well, we can't find enough skilled individuals. And, what does that look like? And I always go back to, well, what does your job description say? Because if the job description is not transparent, nor does it provide enough information, you kind of get what you get. You get what you put out. Like that's the first opportunity to train those individuals that might end up in your organization. That's their first introduction to who you are. Are you being transparent? Are you removing as many barriers as possible so that they fully understand what your organization is about, what the role entails? Or, oh, well, we'll just wait till they get in to tell them. And then we'll wait till they get in the interview to tell them. Well, then let's look at how you get an applicant. If you're relying on ATS, an automated tracking system, to do the work for you, there's a lot to be lost in that.
Very true. In your view, what's one outdated belief about corporate learning that we need to let go of, and what should replace it?
Oh, it is. It is the thing that corporate training needs to let go of are the trendy use of language, meaning, oh, they need to have something visual and auditory and paper or some tactile to learn. And then it's the shift to the language of, oh, well, we need to use micro learning and only a 30-minute or a 15-minute workshop is going to work. Those statements, which have become common practice, their foundation is based in theory. Some of it is based in theory, but what has happened is it has gotten misused. And so shifting to, why don't we train people as people? Let's just train them as people, as individuals. What do you as an individual need? We will provide that for you so that you are learning and gaining the skills that you need.
So personalization of training.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And why don't you think that those general categories of learning styles and micro learning are not effective the way they're being used?
It's the way they're being used. It's the viewing them as a quick fix. And so, well, if we just give them a video, okay, yes, video has its place, but how much thought is being used to create that video? If it's, oh, we're gonna hold a workshop and get people to share their stories or to share their experience, that is a great practice. But have you created psychological safety in that moment so that individuals are comfortable sharing? Right. So I look at it as it's not so much as the practices, but it's the mis and maluse of those practices.
One bugaboo for me is when I see online that there's going to be a 1 hour program that will teach you everything you need to know about how to move into a management role or whatever it might be. You know, that
Right.
we this immediate, since Prime and Amazon and everything, we expect to get what we need immediately and then move on. And learning isn't
Absolutely.
like that.
It isn't. If we think about walking, individuals are not born and immediately sprint. Human beings, at least. We're not born and then immediately sprint. There is a period of just understanding who we are and, our being in the world. And then it's understanding the parts of ourselves, right? So for children, babies, it's our bodies. For adults, it's understanding our frame of reference, our belief systems, our prior experience. It is a progress. It is a slow progression. Now, there are things that we can do to speed, move along, somewhat speed the process. However, it is not instantaneous. It is not. And when it appears that it is instantaneous, there is oftentimes a very quick breaking point shortly thereafter.
And we know that if it isn't reinforced in some way and reinforced immediately at the beginning,
Yes.
that
Yes.
it is not learning. It is going to go by the wayside. So nothing will
Absolutely.
ultimately have been learned.
Absolutely. And this is why you have leaders, they are taking, let's say, a conflict resolution workshop or course. But if they have not been encouraged and supported in actually practicing and applying those skills outside of that training session, they will continue to struggle with conflict resolution.
Or any skill.
Any,
If
correct, any skill.
if people don't feel safe using new skills, I mean, we're nervous about them, even if we have
Mhm.
practiced in a classroom.
Right, right,
It's
absolutely.
still a finite amount of practice. And what does it take? Six, 16 days for a new habit or a month, whatever it
It takes
is.
whatever it is, it definitely takes some time, and so we can't ignore any of that. We cannot ignore any of it. Mhm.
How are you leveraging data, technology, or new learning methods to create more personalized and effective learning experiences?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I've really been looking at the data in terms of who is in the workspace. So looking at within the organizations that I'm working with, doing a deep dive to understand who the employees are. What is the employee profile? And let's build to that, recognizing with enough space for growth and for evolution as their workforce evolves. When it comes to the numbers and the quantitative data, I appreciate it. And sometimes organizations are not actually collecting the data, or if they have collected some form of data, it's not usable, meaning it doesn't provide insight to answering a question. And so when I think about, or, whenever I'm asked about how do I use the data, I take I use it from a research, like an academic research perspective, right? Let's collect it, let's use it to inform decision making. But what I have found is often organizations it's not a strength of theirs. And it's not a strength in terms of data collection, data analysis, data synthesis, and then using the data to make informed decisions. And so that's another area that I educate the organization in.
Okay. If you could give one piece of advice to leaders who want to build a true culture of continuous learning, what would it be?
It would, I have said this before. I've said this before. It's not about you. It's not about you. And now that is a loaded statement. Very quickly, it's to a leader, it is not about you. This training experience, this development experience, it is not about you. For founders and new presidents or new CEOs, their development is not about you. It's your ability to support them and get your mission and your vision to be held by them and carried out by your team. But it's not about you. And even for middle managers, I would say the same holds true, is your team's success. You have an impact. Yes, and in some regard, people will look at you, but when you think their success, but when you think about their training and development, you have to not make it about you. You have to make it about them.
Okay. What's one book, resource, or learning experience that has had a lasting impact on you personally?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say on the one hand, I kind of hate to admit this, but I would say Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. And the reason it has had a lasting impact on me is it was a course, a book that I had to read as an undergrad. So in the early 90s, I had to read it. And like most undergraduate students, I did not read it cover to cover. I skimmed it just to get through. And then I packed it away. And once I had gotten out of my master's program, I was unpacking a box, and there it was. And I flipped through it, and a few things that were highlighted really helped me at that stage in my career. And so I just shrugged it off and said, well, that's just nice. I'll hold on to it. And I packed it up. And then again, some years later, unpacking that box, and oh, here's that same book again. And it spoke again to me. And so I am a woman of faith. And so I think, obviously the Bible has informed and consistently provided lasting guidance. But Covey's book, I still have not read it cover to cover, but I can honestly say I've even taught from it for an undergrad leadership course. But for some reason, it always, whenever I flip through it, there's a nugget in there that speaks directly to where I am.
Can you give us an example? Or am I putting you on the spot?
No. I would say, so I'm in another new season and chapter of my life, and two, I would say, the first is around prioritizing. So I've been challenged by what are my priorities, like day to day working, not my belief system, but my priorities in work. So it's reminded me like, yep, that's not urgent. I can't influence that. My influence is over here. So that's where I'm going to put my focus. But then it's also the elements around supporting those around you and your team, and how are you communicating with those individuals? How are you leading? Are you leading from the front? Are you leading from the back? Are you leading alongside? And that's just been a great reminder in this new chapter.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
What else would you like to add that we haven't talked about?
Yes, well, there were, a couple questions there to the end that I was reminded of. So I just launched my first book, and it's when operations meet people, and it really summarizes our entire conversation, Deb, in that for leaders, when you're thinking about your operations and why are things not going well, or why do I have a people problem? I encourage leaders who are reading the book to think about what is their belief system? What are they prioritizing? What is their vision for the organization? And how is that guiding them as opposed to, well, this is our budget for this year, or this is the revenue marker that we're attempting to make. Looking at operations and people as two separate entities is short-sighted, and it's not a good practice, because it is truly the people in your organization. And I've said this, it's truly the people in your organization that move your operations.
So the title is, again,
The title is When Operations Meet People.
and that's available on Amazon.
It is. It is. It's available on my website, drcarriegraham.com, Amazon, and all places that you buy your reading materials. And it is really geared toward leadership. The audience is geared toward leadership and thinking about the way in which you lead people for for the operations to carry out your business. It's not a how-to, but it is okay, let me take some time to think. Let's take some time to think. So if you're ready, I always say are you ready? Are you ready to start thinking? Because if you're ready to start thinking and reflecting and being honest with yourself, then that's the right book. If you're looking for a quick how-to, it's okay. Don't, just move along. I'm okay with it.
Well, congratulations on having the book. That's wonderful.
Why, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I am excited. I'm excited for the opportunity, and I'm very blessed for the opportunity as well. And honored to be able to share my experiences with a larger community. My goal is that leadership does right. Ultimately, that leadership is doing right by the people that they say they lead and support.
Oh, I share that hope and
Yes.
expectation.
Yes.
So, once again, how can people get in touch with you?
I would love it for individuals to visit my website, drcarriegraham.com. Come and visit. You can drop me a note there, a message, and I will get it and return it. But more importantly, there's a number of resources on there that are applicable to every size organization, as well as every phase of the leadership journey.
Oh, terrific. Okay, so please get in touch with Dr. Carrie Graham. And Carrie, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Deb, for having me. It is truly an honor, and the work that you're doing is such a guiding light for employees and leaders, and your incredible career and journey supporting people globally as well as domestically. It's truly an honor to sit with you and have conversation with you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And I want to thank our listeners for listening in and participating in our conversation. And I hope that you learned as much today as I did.
Yes.
Please join us next week on August 11th as we meet with Ethan Chazen, a leadership coach, culture transformation consultant, author, and podcast host. And if you are concerned about your managers or your leaders, or your trainers, and you're wondering, do they have the skills they need to be effective in your organization? Please contact me, because I have an assessment that will help you work through that, and then you can build together with those individuals. And please remember that Laurel and Associates is always focused on making lackluster leaders legendary, as smart learning fuels real business results. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Learning Advantage from Insight to Impact. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Every lesson, every workshop, every failed attempt you save becomes a map upon the desktop, shows the road